Hello everybody, welcome to the channel, I'm Recurs, and I finally got my hands on Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. Now, I think it's really important to let everyone know this is not a remaster, so it isn't of both games. This is just both games effectively being re-released on new hardware and newer consoles effectively. So before I dive into a proper review, one thing I want to specify is my history with both these games, okay? So the first Star Wars Battlefront game that came out, I believe, in 2002, it could have been 2003, I'm not 100% sure on the years. I didn't really play it a lot. I played small snippets here and there at a friend's house, but it was never really a long playthrough, so it wasn't or anything like that. However, the second game I played a lot, and I actually have a funny story about that. I used to play the split screen of the second game quite a bit with my best friend at the time, who has since moved away, and we would have played it for hours on end, storming the Jedi Temple, and then when it came to the time where someone got the effectively respawn as the Jedi, all hell broke loose between the two of us because we were always on the same team, and we always both wanted to be a Jedi and storm the place, but obviously we couldn't. And on the Jedi Temple map, if you remember, you actually got to play as Mace Windu, so you did. And so every now and again, one of us would be fuming that this other person was able to be the Jedi and we weren't. So it led to a couple of arguments and a couple of times where friendly fire was on and we were specifically trying to eliminate each other, so we were, because we just didn't like the fact that the other person got to be a Jedi. But other than that, I had a lot of fun with this game. I have a lot of great memories when it comes to this game. One of the things I actually really loved about the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the space battles. Now, in the space battles, effectively, they are as they sound. It was you and, maybe if your friend was playing it with you, split screen, and the two of you were pretty much, like I say, getting up against everyone in space. It was pretty much as it sounds, so it was. There's nothing really special to it, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the open aspect of it. I enjoyed the fact that you could actually get onto the enemy ship and blow it up from the inside. I thought that was really innovative at the time, sorry. And overall, I just had a fun time. So there's a lot of good memories when it comes to this game, specifically Star Wars Battlefront 2, more so than Battlefront 1, mainly because I have more experience with Battlefront 2 and overall have a lot more fond memories with that game itself. So now that we have that out of the way, I can actually finally go in and talk about this classic collection that's just been released. Okay, so let me just point this out. I'm playing this game a couple hours after release, so it's likely going to need a day one patch and a few updates here and there, so I'm not going to judge it too harshly. But one of the things I will pick up on, and I think they actually need to be addressed, is the actual controls. Okay, so I understand that this is a game that came out way back in 2005, and realistically the problem is that these controls were catered to this game specifically. Now, I'm referring to the console version of the game. I have no idea what the PC version was like, but I feel as though nowadays a lot of gamers come to expect pretty universal controls when it comes to FPS games, and I know this game is first person, but it's also third person. You can sort of switch it out and stuff, but I think more often than not, a lot of people expect pretty basic controls when it comes to these sort of games. And even though I know that it's just a port over, I think that that's something they could have done. I think that they actually could have modernized the controls a bit better to make it a bit more streamlined and straightforward, so you know what you're doing whenever you go into it. Obviously I understand they want to be as respectable to the original game as possible, but I just feel as though this is something they really could have updated, and I don't think a lot of people actually would have minded had they actually done this. Now again, I have no idea what the PC controls are like, so because I never played the PC version of the game. I also never played online competitively because I played the original Battlefront 2 back on the PS2 and I didn't have online connections whatsoever with that game. I just played against bots and it was always a lot easier. So whenever I went into an online game in this, having to adapt the old style controls can be a bit of a headache. And I understand obviously there's a single player which will adjust due to the actual game itself, but overall I think the days of individual franchises sort of having their own style of layout for controls in these sort of games, I think that's long gone. I think everyone sort of expects the traditional FPS controls nowadays within consoles, so I think that's something that they could have maybe changed and a lot of people would have been annoyed. Again, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, maybe a lot of people would have felt really strongly about it. Another issue I've actually found with the online competitive feature in this game is that the matches, they're very quick, realistically, and I don't know what that was like back in the day because again, I played against bots with my friends, so that I never played online, as opposed to maybe a lot of guys who were on PC that potentially played online or had a network connection to their PS2. I never played online with this game, so I don't know if it generally was really long. I don't know what the online feature was actually like back in the day, but I'm judging off of what it was like when I played it today. And overall, it just felt like it went too quick, so it did for me to really sit down and enjoy it. One thing that I actually will give the developers a lot of props for is even though it's a port and it's effectively just moved over to modern hardware, it isn't as bad on the eyes. I noticed when I went back and played the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 on PC a few years ago, one of the things I actually noticed, and this is actually using a modern up-to-date graphics card, is it was still very grainy, so it was still hard to pick out people in the distance. And this is something I think the developers deserve a lot of credit for, because you know who your targets are in this game at a distance. There isn't any of that problem where they blend into the scenery. You can specifically spot them, and I do feel as though they deserve a bit of credit for the likes of that. They could have been very lazy on it and just ported it over and maybe made it a bit prettier, but they actually specifically went in and made sure that you would be able to spot targets. So again, props to them for that. The biggest issue I have actually faced is the fact that whenever you're in online competitive games, the game does crash quite a bit. So it does. Now this could be whether you're respawning or just going straight into the game or trying to connect. And what becomes really annoying with this issue is the fact that you actually get the countdown, so you do from 10 when you're ready to respawn, and it's only when it hits 1 does it freeze. Now I would expect the developers to come out with a patch for this and actually fix it, because like I say, I'm only playing this a few hours after release, and like most big budget games effectively, you do have to have a day one patch, and I would expect nothing less when it comes to this sort of game. On the plus side, however, the sound is still great, so it is in the game. Although I don't really know if that's much of a compliment, because one thing the Star Wars games are always renowned for was having great sound, so it was, whether that be the GameCube Jedi Academy games or the Force Unleashed games, or even the EA recent games, have always been renowned for their sound design, and they've always been top tier when it comes to that. So again, I don't know if that's much of a compliment, but I always thought that was a good aspect to it, the fact that the sound was great. But I'm just going to be completely blunt. Is it worth your while or even your money at the minute to buy this game? Truthfully, I would say no, especially if you're a PC player, because realistically this game is more or less just an updated graphical version of the PC game. Not a remaster, but just HD. It's made more high def, so it is, the objects are a lot more clear and you know what you're shooting at. And overall, with the PC version, you already got online competitive multiplayer. Maybe if you're a console player, you'll probably think to yourself, I never got the experience online competitive play with this game back in 2005 for the same reasons I didn't. But realistically, I don't really think it's worth the money that they're asking for right now, especially when you consider that you could easily make the transition to PC and play it at a much more cheaper price. And overall, like I say, the controls are very clunky, it's very laggy, there's a lot of network connectivity issues getting into matches. But overall, do I think these are long-term issues? No, I do think these will all be addressed. Obviously, the controller situation, maybe there's a way to fix it if, you know, I play around. Maybe it's because I was a bit impatient, just wanted to jump in. But realistically, I didn't see any way you could really fix the controller issues to be more cohesive of what we have today. But I'll have a look and see if there is. Like I say, PC, you're not really changing much, so you're not. And all these issues that I've listed, I'm hoping that they will be fixed in the next couple of weeks, maybe hopefully days. Because these are general first, you know, couple hours, couple days issues that I would expect them to fix. If not, this is a really bad release realistically, and honestly it's not worth your money at the minute. Oh, at its current stat out of 10, I would probably give it a 4 out of 10 at the minute, just because there's a lot of bugs that shouldn't really be there. They should be very easily ironed out, so they should before launch. And I don't think this is a situation where the previous Battlefield games, the rebooted ones under EA just wanted to throw these out. This is clearly a team that's had time to do it, and for whatever reason just hasn't ironed out a lot of these bugs or completely missed them in the development process. I don't know why, but overall I would say maybe wait a week or two, so because I would expect these issues to be fixed, and then I'll do a second review in a couple of weeks, you know, hopefully when they are ironed out, and give a much more in-depth and hopefully a better review overall. I'm not really big on reviews, I don't really do a lot of reviews overall. This is more or less me just getting my opinion, so it is. I don't really want to class it as a review, but I suppose it is. Right now I would say hold off buying it, so I would for a couple of days, maybe even a week or two, and see what it's like within that time. But for the time being, I would give it a 4 out of 10 at the minute. The 4 is only there for the nostalgia factor, so it is. But like I say, they need to do a lot of work to get this up and running. But again, that's just my opinion. You could be loving it, so if you are, happy days, I'm glad. But me, I'm not. I think it needs a lot more. So yeah, that was my opinions on the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. If you agree with any of my comments I've made here, please feel free to comment below, share your opinions, add to it if you feel necessary. If you disagree, obviously leave a dislike, you're entitled to do it, it's an opinion based aspect, so it is. If you happen to be a fan of FPS games, or in general, more specifically Medal of Honor, I do a lot of stuff surrounding that series and FPS games in general, so maybe consider subscribing to the channel, you may find something you like. But other than that, I've been Recursive, and have a lovely day guys, thanks for checking out the video, peace.